All right. Well, I'll just start from the top here. I'm gonna read this update. This update was just posted to Singularity and the news item on the CCP website. Depths of the Abyss update. So we'll just run it down. Fearless Capsuleers. Depths of the Abyss update coming in September will introduce new tiers to Abyssal Dead Space, allowing players who are unfamiliar with the Abyss a chance to experience it at a more accessible level, while also offering more experienced Capsuleers even greater challenges and rewards. The introduction of a Tier 0 sites to Abyssal Dead Space will offer less experienced, curious Capsuleers an opportunity to dip their toe into Abyssal Dead Space with less danger. This will allow them to become familiar with the kind of ships and environments they can expect to encounter at higher tiers. For those who are looking for a greater challenge, new Tier 6 Abyssal Dead Space pockets are also coming as part of a Depths of the Abyss update. Offering even better rewards, these new sites will give even seasoned Abyss runners something new to master. Other elements of the Depths of the Abyss update will include being able to enter all Abyssal Dead Space tiers in a team of 2 destroyers, the introduction of velocity increasing clouds, and capital module mutaplasmids. In addition, there will be new groups of NPCs for Capsulers to face off on all tiers of Abyssal Dead Space. Expect some different Globian foes, and even pirate faction adversaries that have not been seen in the Abyss before. You can try out these new updates yourself by heading over to Singularity Test Server and discussing with your fellow Capsuleers on the EVE Online forum. Stay tuned for more info coming soon about the Depths of the Abyss update. So this is obviously huge news. I mean, they're hitting us with a lot of stuff. A Tier 0 and a Tier 6, duo destroyers, capital mutaplasmids. These are like this is big deal. Oh, and we should mention the speed clouds as well. It's in there. So we're gonna go down the Hobo Leaks update, which has like the actual details of what's being added in here, so we can pull it apart and players can know what to expect when they try it out. Please do test this out on Singularity. Everything's under disk. Hop on and give it a shot. If you're interested in this content and you want to make sure that it's quality, then help CCP test. Get on Singularity and run the sites. It's all free. So, Manuel, if you want to switch over to the Singularity update, the Hobo Leaks page, we can go down that list. So, obviously, there's a lot here. You see that each thing is chock full. So we'll try to like group things up and not read all of the details of each individual one. So we'll start at the top under new items. There's 100 entries. So here we're going to find all the items that have been added into the game that did not exist, before this update was sent out to Singularity specifically. This HoboLeaks' website that takes the updates that are sent down to the client. So your game, it takes the same files that we all have, and it pulls them apart, and it knows where to look, and it puts them back together in this format for us so we can see what's in them. And it does that automatically, scripted. Guy behind it, has made this all automated for us. So it's showing us that in this update that just went to Singularity, these 100 items are now part of the game files and where they weren't before. And if we toggle the attributes on the right-hand column there, we could see everything. And we're not going to for every item again, but that's what we're going to see here. So we see at the very top, Tranquil Electrical Filament, Tranquil Dark Filament. So these are the Tier 0 filaments. There's going to be one for each weather. So we'll scroll past that. The next thing we see is Sancha's Devoted Hunter and Cataclysmic Electrical Filament. So now we found the Tier 6 filaments and one of the new NPCs. We can also, and you see it says click to toggle, showing the 61 attributes. There are 61 attributes that are assigned to this NPC. We are not going to go through all of them live, but I recommend that everyone do so, especially when it's easier to. Right now, this is the only way to view it in an automated way. You can see all of its like damage it does, its navigation, its resistance, everything about it, all of its remote effects, all of its AI, its behavior. You can see what it'll do. So I definitely recommend that everyone who's interested sit down and pull these apart so you know what to expect. Eventually, this will hit the reference sites like EveRef, and you'll be able to look it up a lot more easily. But for now, this is the way. And this is only one NPC. There's going to be a whole slew of them. There's a whole bunch. So we can scroll down some more. We can skip past. We have all the Tier 6 filaments. Now we get to the next NPC. This is Sancha's Devoted Knight. And you can see from the little icon what kind of ship it's going to be. So that looks like a Phantasm. And we can see, its speed, its sig, all of its behaviors. So we can see that this thing has a sig of 660 and a maximum velocity of 580. Just cherry picking, particular stats, attributes for comparison's sake. This is how we can tell what an NPC is going to do. We can also see NPC behavior maximum combat orbit range 32,000. So that means this thing is going to try to orbit you. This Sancho's Devoted Knight is going to try to orbit you at 32 kilometers. Like, that's what it's going to try to do based on this attribute here. And that's how you can plan accordingly. So we'll collapse that down, and now we can get to the next group, which is neutral Globians. So when the Abyss was introduced, there was only the Damavix, the Vedmax, and the Leshaks. That's all there were. And then they added Kikimuras, Radivas, and Drekavax later, but they didn't make it into Abyss. So now these NPCs are going to be here. We don't know how they're going to show up. We don't know if they're going to show up in the rooms that we're used to, or if there's entirely new rooms that have been constructed that will include these or consist entirely of them. So this is what we need to test, and this is what we're going to need to see. Striking Drekavax, so there's those, of course. Sancha's, more Sancha stuff. Those look like a succubus model, so these are going to be frigates. There's a whole bunch of different frigates here. They're going to do different things. They have different names. That's going to signify their E-War and their behavior, because they're all going to do the same damage. They're all going to do EM Therm because they're Sanchas. So we could open up one and look, and we can take a quick look, but I don't know how much we're going to find. Okay, so this thing has a web of fire. So we can see that this thing has a web of fire. It also has a shield booster. Ooh boy. Active reps, kids. These rats have active reps. Oh boy. Fun times. I hope you're all ready. This is going to be interesting. It orbits close, etc. So orbit, it's pretty slow when it orbits, so that's nice. Not too hard to hit. So let's compare, and discharge is 1.0, but we'll see. So let's compare that to. So that was the Fisher, the first Sancha's one. Now I'm going to look at a different Sancha's one and see if it has something else, the one called the Trapper. I'm betting it's going to be a web or a scram. The Fisher was a web. Trapper is probably going to be a scram based on its name. Yeah, sure enough, it's a scram. Okay, so these names these Sanchas, the names will be able to tell us what their E-War is, and it'll make sense. So I'll figure that out. I recommend everybody look at these attributes very carefully to figure out what you're going to have to prepare for. So now we come to the next group of ships, and this is very interesting. These are the new Upwell Edencom ships, and they're flown by NPCs, and they're going to shoot us with Vortons. So if we're taking frigates, or if we're taking destroyers, then we can get hit together all at the same time by these NPCs. So these will be the Skybreakers and the Stormbreakers. I'm sorry, these ones aren't the Zappy Boys yet. Those come later on. These are the DED ships, the Concord ships, the Pacifier and the Enforcer. My mistake. Those come later. Pacifier and the Enforcer and the Marshal. So these are the regular Concord ships that we already know about. Right underneath there is the Upwell ships. I skipped too far. But yeah, so we have the Upwell ships, as I said, and then right above that we have the Concord ships. We have Pacifiers and Enforcers and Marshals, and we have different kinds of each one. So again, we're probably going to see different behavior and different E-War from these. So these have these strange names, like a disparate troop, but they're the beginning. The prefix tells us their behavior. So we see a marker and a drainer and an assault. So we can see that, based on those names, we can assume what they're going to do. There's an arrestor. So an arrestor is going to be a web or a scram or both. So let's see what it does. So it's got a web. I don't see a scram. So the arrestor is a web. Here's the next thing that we expected to see. And this is actually rather important. All NPCs in Abyssal Dead Space are the same in every single tier. They do not change. The only difference is the site's weather penalty changes, But there are two exceptions to this rule, and that is the Drifter battleship, Charybdis Tyrannos. She flies a Drifter battleship that changes every tier. She's got a foothold battleship and an assault battleship and all these other battleships, rearguard battleship. So she gets upgrades, and the Overmind battleship, which is the rogue drone battleship boss, that ship gets upgraded every single tier because there's only one of them. Other NPCs, their change over tier is getting more of them. The spawns get larger. But since these ships only ever appear alone, they have to get upgrades. So these ships get stronger. So now that there's a tier 6, there is now a stronger Drifter battleship and a stronger Overmind. This is a big deal because these guys hit really hard, and their wrecking blows can eat through shields into armor and eat from armor into hull if you're an armor tank. A wrecking blow from a tier 5 Drifter battleship was 7,500 damage raw. This one is going to be 9,000 damage raw. So this is something that tier 6 is going to be extremely punishing. But we'll get to impressions later instead of now, like we said. Finally, now we get to the mutaplasmids. And this is the really fun part. So we have capital mutaplasmids and we have heavy warp scrambler mutaplasmids. So the heavy warp scrambler is a special type of warp scrambler that can only be equipped to battleship and larger. And it's basically stronger than the rest. So it's a scram that has the range of a point effectively, but it has ridiculous fitting, is only allowed on a battleship, and eats up a lot of the capacitor. So an extremely long range scram with a lot of points on it, like a whole lot of points. So that now has mutaplasmids, where it didn't before. And now after that, we get to capital. And heavy warp disruptors as well. Those get the mutaplasmids too. Capital plasmids. So we have capital prop. We have afterburners here. We have micro warp drives here. We have capital armor repair. We have capital ancillary armor repair. Capital shield booster. Capital ancillary shield booster. Capital NOS. We have capital newt. And right smack in the middle, they throw something else weird at us that we weren't expecting to see. And this is at a left field. And right between the Gravid Capital Energy Newt mutaplasmid and the Decayed Siege Module mutaplasmid, which is another bomb to drop in and of itself, we have something that says Abyssal Cinnaball. Abyssal Cinnaball. They're throwing angels at us in Abyss now. So we're going to keep scrolling, and we should expect to see more angel NPCs that we're going to have to fight. But let's get to that other thing, which is the Decayed Siege Module mutaplasmid. Siege modules, folks, can be abyss rolled now. This is going to be very interesting. So now here we get past that. Then we get to all the abyssal item types for all the rolled modules. We don't have to look at those. But we can actually, I want to look at the siege module because I'm curious what stats roll. And it doesn't say here, but it'll say somewhere else. So now we get to our angel NPCs. Here we have a bunch of angel NPCs that we're going to be fighting. And this is going to be very interesting. And there's an elite one. It's different than the rest. These are also new names we haven't seen before. Next we get to, they've added in these other proving filaments, but they don't name, they haven't been named yet, so we don't know what they are. Moving right along. So that's it for the new items. These are the items that have been added to the game that didn't exist in the game files prior to this update, which means they are either brand new or they were in and had been removed before. So whatever it was, 45 minutes ago to an hour ago, it wasn't there, and now it is. That's everything in this list. Now we're looking at other things. We can skip this reprocessing. That's not really important. Now we're gonna look at other things. So these are attribute changes. That's not relevant. I've looked those through already. Now we get to attributes per type. So this is gonna tell us a little bit. I don't think, nope. This is not gonna tell us a whole bunch of anything, actually, unfortunately, without a lot of digging. Then dynamic items. Now this describes mutaplasmids. And this is going to tell us what all those brand new mutaplasmids are going to do. So we kind of know what they all do, but we just should verify, because so mutaplasmids will, I guess we should start from the top about what mutaplasmids are. Mutaplasmids are items that drop in abyssal dead space as loot that are one-time use that will permanently modify a specific type of module when you apply it. It consumes the module, it consumes the mutaplasmid, creates a brand new module, and certain specific attributes on that module get rolled randomly within a range depending on the quality of the mutaplasmid that you use. And it's permanently changed. The new item is permanent, and it could be really good or really bad or both. So new mutaplasmids have been added, and we kind of know what they do because not all the attributes roll. So with the warp scrambler and warp disruptor, it would roll the range and the capacitor use and the CPU usage. And sure enough, that's what it does on the new, the heavy ones as well. So that hasn't changed. For the props, it'll probably do the same thing as it does on the non-capital props. So it'll roll CPU and grid, capacitor cost and velocity bonus, which it does. Same thing for the micro warp drives. Will do all of that plus the signature radius modifier. That rolls as well. That's the same as the non-capitals. The armor repairs are the same as the non-capitals as well. The ancillary and shield and the ancillaries. The Newt and the NOS, those are the same as the non-capitals as well. And now we get to the interesting one, which is the siege module, because this is brand new. This didn't exist before. So all the capital mutaplasmids that are created will roll the same attributes as the other ones. The fitting, which is being the CPU and the grid, and the performance, which being its output and its capacitor usage, cycle time, etc. All the same. What rolls on siege modules is the turret damage bonus, the armor and shield duration and amount repair, the missile damage bonus. So both the armor and missile damage bonus, both the armor and shield repair time and amount, and power grid usage. This is what rolls on siege modules. So get your siege modules ready and start rolling them, because this is going to be very interesting. Effects. So they've added one effect. The one effect that they've added is Chain Lightning. That is so that the NPC Zappy Boys can Zappy Boy us. So we're going to get hit with the Chain Lightning now, which is going to be interesting for frigates and destroyers and drones. Drones beware. Drone boats beware. Effects per type. So the effects per type is where we can see the AI that is assigned to each NPC here. So again, we're not going to go through them all, but this is going to tell you what they're going to do. So you're going to see things like remote effects, like NPC behavior armor repair, NPC behavior web of fire, missile launching for entity, target attack, and these are the target painter, etc. This will tell you what each of these NPCs are going to do to themselves, to their friends, to you, all of those things. This is where you find all of those rules that they're going to follow. So again, if you're going to be trying this content out, especially if you're going to be doing tier 6, you better be prepared, and this is how you get prepared. Next, we're not going to look at the files, because that's like really deep divey, and I recommend that people do that on their own time. There's 300 strings, but it's really easy to tear through them because there's a lot of repetition, and we're just going to page down through most of them. So right at the top, we're going to skip through a bunch of stuff. We're going to find stuff referring to all the things that we've seen so far. These are all the text strings that are tied to those items and attributes and all of those things. So we see Tranquil Dark Filament and descriptions of all this stuff. Just like Death Spaces, Harsh and Unforgiving, etc. So we're going to keep scrolling until we find something of interest in here that's not something that we already know. So here's interesting. We have new clothing that I'm guessing is going to drop in Abyss, Eden Comet. That may very well drop in Abyss. That'll be interesting. Because right now you get the Globians suits from there. So I guess they're adding this in, additional rewards. We see descriptions of the new NPCs. We see here's confirmation of 1 cruiser, 2 destroyers, 3 frigates. These are what will be allowed in. You can also see the names of all the rats. More descriptions, nothing we haven't seen before. I am not sure that there's anything else. Yeah, I think we're pretty much at the end here. Yep. Yeah, that'll be the end of that. So that's the update, kids. It's huge. Try it out. To review, we've seen now 2 destroyers are now allowed in Abyssal Dead Space. There is now a tier 0 for training. There is Chad is telling me. Phenom says you can see the Kybernaut combat suits in game. They're just available to. Okay. I don't know. Yeah. So two destroyers are allowed. Tier 0, tier 6. Tier 6 is going to be super hard. New spawns, new NPCs, capital mutaplasmids that follow the non-capital modules, and siege module mutaplasmids that are brand new. This is really awesome. So, thoughts? Anyone?
Did it say when this is going to launch?
I mean, it's on CC now, and they didn't say it. I didn't see anything in the post that we read at the start about when this is coming out. I'm hoping that they give us lots of time to test. I do have thoughts. I just want to give people time to talk because, I've been holding down the mic the whole time. But it seems nobody else has anything to say, so I'll just get right in there. Tier 6 is super interesting. Has anybody in the room flown Tier 5 by any chance? No, just me then. Awesome. So the important point about Tier 5, if you want to do it reliably, is to recognize the fact that the site, you have 20 minutes to get into and out of the site. And if you don't make it out in 20 minutes, then you lose everything. There are 3 rooms, and each room can be the same. You can get the same spawn 3 times. There's a limited number of types of spawns that you can get. There's about 10 of them before this patch. Now this patch is going to add who knows how many more. You have to be able, in order to say that I can do Tier 5 reliably without loss. Now, some people are okay with loss, and they figure that into their cost of doing business, and they figure that into their ISK per hour, or whatever it is, and it's fine. But if you want to do it without loss, then you have to know that you've seen every different spawn, and you've beaten them all. And not only have you beaten them all, you've done it in 6 minutes and 40 seconds or less, because you can get that room 3 times in a row. So if you get spawn number 7 out of 10, and it takes you over 6 minutes and 40 seconds, and you get that for the first room and the second room and the third room, you've gone over 20 and you lose. Tier 5 really pushes the survivability and the timer on a lot of ships. It makes it very, very tight. There's not a lot of ships that belong in Tier 5. Most of them don't make it there. And Tier 6 is going to watch Z kill. This is going to be interesting, basically, is what I'm getting at. This is my first thought.
So you mentioned that the Sappy Boy was going to be used against players. Isn't that still on an Edencom thing? So it's still going to be one type of players, right?
No, this is Abyss. Gloves are off.
Explain the standing. You were saying earlier, I think before we went live, that all your standings where a player chooses to support Triglavian or Edencom, that will have no bearing on any of this Abyss content.
Yeah, that's something that's really good to clarify. Thank you for bringing that up. So regarding standings, remember when we scrolled through the Hobo Leaks and we expanded the attributes for all of these NPCs? The attribute that we would be looking for if we cared about, if we wanted to know if we have to care about standings, is NPC faction gain or faction loss, and those attributes don't exist on these NPCs. So all of the old NPCs that were there before had no standings associated with them. These new NPCs as well have no standings associated with them. They will all be hostile, and attacking them will have no impact on your standings. And there's Foz. Yes, Fozzy's confirming it, and he says, "What happens in the abyss stays in the abyss." And Signal said the same thing apparently. Great minds.
Because when you're in missions, we're taught that in missions, I might be doing missions for Caldari, and I might have to shoot a Galente or a Mimitar NPC, and I'm going to hurt my faction standing if I do that. And then we have this Edencom versus Triglavian event where standing is important, and it's important to reiterate: in the abyss, your standings do not matter. You will not tank your standing by going into a site and going, "Oh my goodness, there's Edencoms here. I don't want to shoot them."
So I could yak all day long about the high end, super cool, awesome stuff that's happening. The tier 6, the capital, all of this stuff. But what I want to hear people's impression on is tier 0. Well, like I'll kick it off with tier 1 is surprisingly hard. Like for a player who's brand new, like they're not prepared for the harshness of tier. Like that'll blap them and hard and quick and repeatedly. So, what does everybody think about a tier 0? About a more accessible abyss? Giving people the ability to get into this more quickly and more easily.
What are the features? Because I've heard that tier 1 is the entry point to Abyss to learn it, and most recommendations have been you try to tier 1 to learn the Abyss. What does a tier 0 offer that's different than a tier 1?
That is a question that we're going to have to find out on Singularity. Everybody get on Singularity. Please test this out. But let's let your mind run wild. Like, what would you assume? Okay, I guess I should ask, have you run tier 1?
No time limit, or after the time you get ejected without getting destroyed, it says sorry, try
again. Or alternately, maybe free ships. Maybe it's designed to be done in a Corvette. So like you literally take the free Corvette and the ship can't kill you. The stuff can't kill you. Sorry.
It's still cruiser based, isn't it? It's just easier.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Unless you've already done it. Have you done it?
No, but it does mention it being cruiser based. It's simply just easier. Because I know T1 is supposed to be the easiest current, but if you're completely brand new and you've just clicked on this Abyss thing and you've never really done a whole lot of combat, it's actually quite hard. I mean, it's easy for everyone that's experienced, but for complete newbies, it's actually not that easy.
Oh yeah, no, it's surprisingly difficult. Like these rats are very real, and as I said, the rats in every tier don't change. Only 2 of them change. All the other ones just get more friends. So the nastiest rats from tier 5 are there in tier 1. And so Trey's in chat asked, "Can I enter tier 6 of frigates?" And the answer is, all the rules remain the same. And now you can use destroyers too. So tier 6 with 3 frigates will take 3 tier 6 filaments. Tier 6 with 2 destroyers will take 2 tier 6 filaments. Tier 6 with 1 cruiser will take 1 tier 6 filament. And Fozzy says, tier 0 has fewer NPCs than tier 1. It has the same rules and ship access as tier 1. We designed it as a way for players to learn the rules of the Abyss with less NPC challenge. So you can learn about the time limits and boundaries in 3 rooms with so few NPCs that you aren't as stressed while exploring those mechanics. Rewards for tier 0 are very low, about a quarter of tier 1.
That's cool. I still like the idea, like at the end of the 15 minutes, you get this whistle. You would be dead if this was a real Abyss.
Yeah. Okay. So for new players, I think this will be really great because I like the scariness of tier 1 because I have like a literal trap on my Eve Workbench page. So everybody check out eveworkbench.com, by the way. Super awesome website for sharing fittings and many other things. But I have a Kestrel on there on my Eve Workbench page that says that it's for Dark Tier 1, Day 0 accessible. And it costs like 1.6 million ISK, right? And it's like complete throwaway. And I basically say that, you know, you can create an alpha tune with a referral million skill points, throw them in there, and zap your way into this Kestrel and do dark sites by yourself. And that's true for the most part, because it'll win sometimes. But it's a trap because it's literally designed to lose. There are rooms that it simply cannot beat in time, and it will die. And the idea is to get a player to run these cheap ships so much, and you know that they hit all the hard spots. Their equipment never carries them and prevents them from seeing where the difficulty is. They see all the dangerous rats, all the dangerous situations. They're forced to really try to win. And that 1.6 million ship is what does that. So with a tier 0, that's kind of taken away, but at the same time, I still think this is extremely beneficial, and I'm very glad that this was put in. Because Abyss is the best PvE, is the best piloting, training, PvE content that I have seen so far. So that's the new player aspect. Anybody? I think okay was here. He was here earlier. We could also talk about the high end aspects as well. This is definitely. I mean, we could talk about capital mute. Does anybody have any thoughts on capital mutaplasmids? Like, this seems to be a hot topic. Like this is going to get expensive quickly, won't it?
Well, for the bigger fleets in nullsec, I don't think it'll affect it because you have a sourcing problem. Like, how do you change the doctrine to add these? Although I think individuals might do it. I wonder how this will. I don't know if we have any wormholers here, but how will this affect wormhole? Because now, when you only have a dread or a fax, you can add mutaplasmid mods to it now with this change. How does that affect their performance?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because when you're limited on the hulls that you've got, not only the amount of hulls that you can field, but the ones that you have in reserve, then having all of these really nice modules is going to be very, very handy. I'm interested to see what a dreadnought with a rolled siege module is going to do.
Probably a lot of damage, and it's going to be loads of fun.
Yeah, the damage modifier rolls, and both of the tank modifiers roll, the cycle time and the output.
The majority of the threat usage, the wrapping doesn't matter, because nullsec majority is used as a buffer fit. So
well, you're talking about fleets, but this isn't going to make its way into fleets, I don't think.
I'll be using it on mine. Why
Say
not?
Again?
I
mean, individuals may choose to do this, but it's not going to be included. You're not going to be required to have that. I'm thinking more along the lines of like solo dread stuff, like PvE dread stuff is going to do this. Like everybody who's farming wormholes in their dreads and has like those blingy ones because they don't expect to lose them. Like those aren't whelping dreads; those are farming dreads. Like those ones are going to get these rolled siege modules.
I still think that they landed mutaplasmids in a weird place. I would have preferred them to be time limited, and that would have been a lot more fun because then they would.
What part of them do you want to be time limited?
I think when you apply them, they should have a time limit, and that would mean that the buffs would be potentially adding variety to fleets and smaller gang warfare stuff.
That's an interesting one, but that would kind of upset their usability because these fits that you can make with them are extremely tight. So, like, when you make those fits, you intend to keep using them, and if it wore off after a while and the stuff just didn't work anymore, that would be rather frustrating.
Well, it's just something that could be fixed with adding a bigger faucet and adding more of them. But making them time limited would be something that adds variety and chaos to combat, something that we desperately need. And I think the problem with mutaplasmid modules and ships and whatever is that they're not tradable in an efficient way. So they're this weird,
oh yeah, don't even get me started on that.
No, it's just, remember, I used to make a lot of money on running a business on meta items when meta items could not be traded. And I think this has the same problem. It's just too much. It's too much assets creep, which makes the whole game way more complicated in a way that's not necessarily beneficial.
So I just linked in chat the only current effective way of really browsing what is available. It's mutaplasmid.space. It scrapes all public contracts for abyssal rolled items and gives you the ability to filter down, even use derived stats, like stats multiplied or divided or combined in some way with other attributes that is not normally available in game, like hit points per second, hit points per gigajoule, etc. So that site is very useful for trading, but there is no in-game interface that allows you to compare items in this way. And like some dude just threw it up on a website. So like, hey guys, please just, maybe ask him for his code or something. I know you're watching. We need this stuff. Like, this is amazing. Mutaplasmid.space. But yeah, so that's interesting. And then so there was discussion in chat just now about which destroyers are allowed, and the answer was that Tech 3 destroyers are in fact allowed, and they can change modes and everything. This is going to be very interesting because you can combine the DPS of 2 Tech 3 destroyers to something that is very, very nasty. And this may be an extremely powerful combination. Granted, it's still a small hull and limited on its tank ability, and it doesn't have the speed that frigate does. Destroyers are actually rather slow. So it'll be interesting to see how this all works out. We can assume that the loot system will work for destroyers similar to the way it does for cruisers and frigates, being that you get one roll per ship slot. So cruisers, when they pop a can, there's one loot roll that comes out. Frigates, when they pop a can, there's 3 loot rolls that come out. And destroyers, when they pop a can, we can expect there to be 2 loot rolls that come out. And Gaurav is saying that they confirm that command destroyers are also going to be allowed, which is going to be very, very interesting. Okay, so, and Fozzie's confirming the loot rolls. So that's good. Hey, Fozzie, why don't you make the nodes and the subnodes, the extraction nodes, double and triple up with cruiser and destroyer, because currently they don't. Currently they're always just a single roll. Man. So this is going to change everything. So this is going to change the whole dynamic. The fact that there are new NPCs and new rooms added. So there were effectively 10 spawns that one had to be prepared to face before. And in Tier 5, those 10 spawns had a lot of variation within them. Different types of E-word, different types of damage, combinations of the NPCs that are allowed to spawn. So it was very difficult to find a ship that was able to handle all of those things and be sure to come out gate in to gate out of every single room, every single time, in 6 minutes and 40 seconds or less. Tier 6 is going to make that damn near impossible. It may very well be impossible without abyssal modules. Because right now, Tier 5 has a very, very short list of hulls that can reliably do each weather and come in and come out every single time if you do it right. But you could do it all with stock mods. Abyssal mods are not required. They're just handy. They just make it stronger. You could do it with unrolled base modules. Tier 6 may be so tough that you need abyssal modules. Like, I'm going to be testing this out, obviously, extensively myself. But that 6 minute and 40 second rule has to be able to be hit. Otherwise, you're just sending something in that's eventually going to die. Sooner or later, you're going to get a room that either kills you or makes you go over that timer 3 times in a row, and then you're poof, gone. I mean, I'm sure everyone has had that experience of losing to the timer, no matter what tier that they've done, and it's always very frustrating, and they feel like there's nothing that you could do. So imagine if that's what you've built everything around. You've invested in your ship, you've practiced and tested. You want to make sure that you can come out every time, and then you can't. So this is going to require a lot of testing to make sure that it's actually safe to do, or if it's just going to be like a YOLO every time. Yeah. So Gage ABC says time to cheese dark sites with micro warp drive Hawks, and he is not wrong. He is not wrong. So for anyone who doesn't know what he's referring to, the cheese experience in Abyssal Dead Space, in other words, the easiest way to get the most money with the least on the line, is taking 3 really, really cheap as disposable micro warp drive Hawks that cost like anywhere from like 50 to 200 mil a piece. So you're fielding maybe 150 mil to 600 mil each site. That's what you're putting in on the line. And micro warp drive Hawks in a dark site just goes so stupid fast, and their sig is, the sig bonus on the assault frigate thing just makes them so hard to hit that they pretty much don't need to tank. Every once in a while, 1 or 2 or even all 3 of them get snagged and killed, but like you're just hauling so much out that it doesn't matter. You're still like way much in the black, and it's really, really easy because it's the tactics are just kind of like anchor, orbit something and fire. So that is like the cheese way to get lots of money out of high tier Abyss. So it's also an interesting way to see what it feels like and looks like. So I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be trying the micro warp drive cheese Hawk trick. And yeah, and Fozzie is saying in a speed cloud. So there's a new weather effect, and it's a speed cloud. And when you pass through it, you go really, really fast, and it's going to be they're going to be impossible to hit. So yes, Hawks are going to make their way into like the Dark Hawk will have a resurgence because it kind of like lost a lot of popularity lately because people are doing Firestorm Nurgles because Firestorm tier 5 filaments got really, really cheap and Nurgles are really, really fun. And there's a lot of money being pulled out of that. But I think the Dark is going to come back at least for a little while. So this is going to definitely cause a resurgence in Abyss activity and potentially profit as well. Haven't looked. Yeah. So actually, yeah. So Safina makes a good point. He says that some of the new NPCs may counter the micro warp drive Hawk cheese, and he is right. We haven't looked at all of those attributes yet. I mean, I don't know what it is they're going to do. They'd have to be able to snag them reliably, and that's really, really tough because you're doing like 4,000 meters per second. They're fast. They're real fast. Oh, okay. So Fozzie says the Angels are the fastest. All right, because the Trigs were real fast when they were chasing you. The Trigs were like 2, 3, even like I think close to 4,000. The frigates. But if the Angels are faster, then maybe that's a counter to the Hawks. Maybe they did that on purpose. I don't know. Fozzie seemed to be very ready with that answer. So like I feel like no one in the room really does this content. Like how much have you guys engaged with this? Like I asked about tier 5 and no one did. How about any tier at all? Like what have you done? Are you now interested because there's a tier 0? Are you interested because there's a tier 6? Are you now interested because there's new NPCs or new Mutaplasmids?
I'm definitely going to give Destroyers a go. Frigates always felt too small and squishy, whereas Cruisers felt too chunky, and it's the whole ability of just you don't have to go and find 2 buddies, you can just do 1. It's a little more convenient for my setup, so I'm going to enjoy that one.
Decies are definitely going to be interesting. So let's theorize a little bit about what kind of destroyer wins, because the kind of cruiser that wins is the brawler. It's got a lot of tank. It's got, decent maneuverability. It can get up in your face. It can tackle things down if it needs to. The drone boats don't need any ability to have, webs or anything like that. Drone boats are just silly, but everything else needs webs, paint, whatever. Usually, pretty much just webs. And they take everything to the face. They don't take, like, they can still dodge battleships, but everything else is going to hit a cruiser to the face, and you got to rip through it. And that's just how it is. You'll be able to apply to everything really well, though. You may have some trouble on frigates if you've built your ship badly. Now, frigates are the exact opposite. It's always going to apply to basically everything. It has almost no tank. It doesn't take anything to the face. If you're taking stuff to the face, you're probably going to die. You still need some tank, and they're still kind of brawlers, but kiting is now actually practical. There are kite builds with micro warp drive frigates that actually do work, and that's the retribution that everybody flies. It can be brawler or kiter, but you can go with a single rep and a micro warp drive, and then a retribution can be very at home, either alone or with friends in electrical abyss. Destroyers don't have the speed and maneuverability of frigates, so they lack that survivability tool, and they don't have the tank of cruisers, so they don't have that survivability tool. They do have more DPS than frigates, and DPS tank is the best tank, as we all know. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. They are still small. They're not as fat as cruisers. They have a little bit more, headroom than frigates. We'll see. We'll see if it's enough. We'll see if it's tuned right, or if it just is too weak or too strong. The Tech 3s in particular are going to be really interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Hecates sound like good fun.
So Hecates can put out a lot of damage, but they're really glass cannon, and I don't know how well that's going to do. It's possible. It's possible that you could fit enough reps on it. It's possible that you can make it survivable enough via kiting, and it's also possible that you can utilize strategies and tactics that keep it out of harm's way. And people have used so frigates can go in up to 3, which means that sometimes people will take 1 frigate or 2 frigates. So I've seen people go, with just 1, and I've seen people go with 1 and then bring some crazy polarized blaster frigate as DPS backup, and they would jump it in, only secondary, so it doesn't get aggro or anything, and it just blasts battleships and adds extra DPS. So Hecate might be able to fill that sort of role. The meta is wide open at this point. We'll see what it locks down to. But with Tech 3s and Command Decies both being allowed in, this is going to be very interesting. There was a question in chat asking if Miracle is the best potential frigate. Maybe. Retri obviously comes in strong. Hawk comes in strong. Nurgle comes in strong. These 3 are the answers, right off the bat, and we'll see how well they do. So yeah, there's this will be very interesting to see how this plays out. So, Spot, are you going to run both the destroyers yourself? Or are you going to find a friend? Or are you going to try to go just one Desi?
Not multi-boxing that stuff. Not got time for that.
So are you going to
try the one on
destroyer?
low tier. Trying solo on the low tier could be interesting, but no, I'm definitely going to try and, because there's a few people I've known, especially in my own group, that are like, yeah, I want to try the Abyss, but there's usually only ever 1 extra person online at once. So it just makes that barrier to just giving it a go a bit lower without having to go alone.
I could see soloing with 1 ship with one destroyer tier 3. I could see that being a real thing. I can also see 2 destroyers dual boxed in tier 4. And I think that is not terribly difficult. I think that this is a practicality. And double, so since it's destroyers, it's double loot. So double loot in tier 4 going really fast to 2 decies seems like not a terrible plan.
But the thing is, all destroyers, for the most part, are squishy. What can you do? How are you going to survive? And that's the question I don't understand.
Tier 4 is not quite as nasty. Keep in mind now there's a tier 6, so our whole perspective is changing. This is still blowing my mind, the fact that there's a tier 6. Because, like, again, tier 5 was the 6-minute 40-second rule for tier 5 was already rough. And, like, I'm kind of almost hoping that tier 6 is tuned to require abyss rolled fancy cruisers. Like, I wouldn't be against that.
I would enjoy it if they just made it so ridiculously hard for the first 6 months that nobody completed a single run, just because they can.
Well, so here's the thing. Tier 5 just got harder, folks, because there's like anywhere from, I'm guessing, 3 to 6 new spawns on top of the 10 that we already had. Like, I don't know how many. I haven't tested it yet, but like that's a lot. Like, that's like maybe a 50% increase in our threat profile. So we have all new stuff. Like,
would our current fits be viable for everything, or do we need to go back
out the window, my friends? Everybody stop running tier 5 on Tranquility. Well, I mean, it hasn't changed on Tranquility, so you keep doing that. But like, don't take your fits that you're using now to tier 4 or 5. On Tranquility when this hits. Like, that's not going to work, folks. There's new rats. They do new things. There you go. Trays is beta tester hero number 1. Already doing tier 6 with Nurgles on Singularity while talking in Twitch chat. This guy needs like a gold star. Give that man 2 million Singularity skill points. CCP. Thanks. I kind of want to get this going myself.
That makes it sound like it's too easy. It should be pretty hard.
I mean, not every room is difficult. He may also be dying. I'm also sure he's not really watching chat that hard. Also, Singularity and dying is totally cool. Hundreds of ISK could be lost. Yeah, and Gaurav is testing out Decies in tier 1. He went alone. One T3D in tier 1. So the Nurgles that everybody is talking about are combination. Well, so I don't know what Trace is running. I know what Loki runs. Loki runs 1 local rep, 1 remote rep on all of his Nurgles, 3 Nurgles. So he's got 6 reps on the field total. And when one of the guys is getting blasted, then they get he can run his local rep if he's not neutered out, and if he is neutered out, then he gets the 2 remote reps, for sure, because those guys aren't affected. So that's why the Nurgles are really, really resilient. They also, given the opportunity to spool up, will spool up really hard. So like battleship rooms just get toasted by Nurgles. When are the formats for the next 3 Abyssal Arena events released? I don't know. That's a really good question. I haven't seen any word about that yet.
I know what 2 of them are. One of them is Cruiser Free For All, and one of them is 2v2 cruisers. There's a third one, but I can't remember what it is.
Oh, Cruiser Free For All. Interesting. Ooh. Oh, so Dopamine says that they will be announcing them later this week. But apparently, Dr. Spodumane has spilled the beans. You heard it here, folks. TIS exclusive. Somebody let something slip. into CC that shouldn't have slipped. Dopamine is super mad right now. Dopamine, are you super mad right now? Dopamine doesn't get mad. He's super chill, guys. I'm kidding. He's
And there's
one of the chillest people out there.
There's also the placeholders for another 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. There's a whole slew of placeholders.
Just gonna see if I can find them.
Guys, capital muted plasmids. I think I've shared the important points. Like, I would love if there was more discussion about this. I mean, I could probably. Oh boy, yeah. I mean, I can talk about like the tier 5 and 6 implications, at least for cruisers for now. So, let's talk about tier 5 cruisers for a minute. Will cruisers work in tier 5? Out of the valid ones, because it's a really short list. We have 5 weathers, and each weather is pretty restrictive. So we have heavy interdiction cruisers, Tech 2 cruisers, Hicks. We have heavy assault cruisers, Hacks, also Tech 2. And then we have pirate cruisers. There's one pirate cruiser that belongs in tier 5. All the other ones are eventually going to die sooner or later. Like, they're not reliable enough, and that's the Gila, and everybody knows that one. Obviously. Sorry, Spot?
The third one was frigate, 5-way free-for-all.
Okay. Frigate free-for-all, cruiser free-for-all, and another cruiser 2v2.
Looks like it, yep.
And I think
unless it's reused text.
I think they were talking about the 2v2 having uniqueness rules. In other words, you can bring a caracal, but you can't bring a second caracal.
That is also true.
I don't know if
yes.
that's going to be in or not. Okay.
According to the description.
I know there was talk about that.
And you also cannot take. Interestingly, for the cruiser-based ones, the cruiser free-for-all. No, let me start again. Words are hard. The 2v2 and the frigate free-for-all, you may not take anything with a meta level of 5 or higher. Yet
5 is Tech 2, so you're restricted to meta mods, no Tech 2.
Sorry, never mind. I'm wrong. Higher than 5, so faction, etc. is out, but Tech 2 is okay. Whereas the
5 is Tech
cruiser
2,
free-for-all. The cruiser free-for-all is 4 or higher. And this might be a typo, of course. It's still CC. Nothing's in stone. But that implies that there is a cruiser free-for-all that you cannot bring T2 in.
Huh. I like it. They want it to be cheap because it's a free-for-all. They want people to YOLO. So, tier 5 cruisers are very restrictive. One pirate cruiser, the Gila, that belongs in there. Everybody knows this. Heavy interdiction cruisers, broadsword, and Onyx have 2 damage bonuses, so they do enough damage. So broadsword can do a couple weathers. Onyx can do dark sights. Then we're left with, so we have 3 ships so far that belong in any tier weather, tier 5 weather, let alone more than one, but at least one. 3 ships so far total. Now we have all the hacks. So every race has 2, and then the Globians have 1. So that's 9 ships. Out of those 9, the Ikitursa can do a couple, so that's 1. And then we'll just go down the list. So the Amar have the Sacrilege, which can do all weathers, and the Zealot, which can do electrical, and maybe Firestorm, but probably not reliably. Then we have Caldari. Caldari have the Eagle, which is entirely too slow and has range issues and doesn't belong in tier 5. So definitely will not go to tier 6. And Cerberus, which has mid-slot issues, doesn't have enough mids to have both the tank and the application that is necessary for hams to be able to be successful reliably in tier 5. So I don't think that'll go to tier 6 either. So Caldari is basically out entirely. Then we're going to go to Galente, and the Galente is the Ishtar. Ishtar is a drone boat, just like the Gila. It's going to be just fine. It may need abyss rolls, but it's definitely going to do well, probably in everything except dark sights. And the Deimos was already kind of iffy, even though it has that fat reps bonus. It worked in exotics and firestorms. I would assume it still might work in both of those, but the jury's out on both. Obviously, it's more likely to fail in a firestorm because they're tougher. And lastly, we get Minotaur. and Minmatar are the Munin and the Vagabond, which both have severe issues, and I don't think that either of them are going to do particularly well in Tier 6, to be frank. I think that they'll both die eventually. They can't be run reliably. So we're down. So Tier 6 options, we're down to maybe Gila, maybe Gila, Sacrilege, Zealot, Ishtar, Deimos, and is that it? I think, and Ikitursa, and that's about it. And Onyx and Broadsword. So those are the ships that could potentially be have a 100% win rate. If you don't need a 100% win rate, like you tend to go in cheap, and you're testing yourself, and you want it to be fun and challenging, which is an entirely valid and different use of Abyss than farming, and I encourage it, then any any hull will work. Like Urslog runs blenders. He asks, will it blend? And he builds a ship, and he makes it entirely too cheap and makes it have no business in high tier, and he brings it into high tier anyway and sees if he could win. And that's like an awesome use of Abyss. But if you're trying to be reliable, then the list gets very, very short, very, very fast. So yeah, we're definitely going to need some testing on which hulls will still work. But it's not it's that handful. The ones that is listed off are the ones that even have a shot. Are there any ships that anybody wants to see go to Tier 6?
Down with Stearns.
You're just saying that because everybody uses them and they're easy.
I want some glorious turret ships to dominate T6, please.
Okay, so turrets. So we went down the list. So that's going to be Zealot, Ikitursa, Broadsword, and Deimos. Ikitursa may end up timing out, to be frank. Like, if there's more rats, because like in every other tier, there's been more rats, and like Ikitursa will not have enough time to ramp up. Like, it's going to get tight, folks. Like, real tight. So the Achilles heel of medium disintegrators and Abyss is cruiser rooms, because frigates don't give you a lot of time to ramp, but you don't need a lot of time to ramp. They kind of just pop. And battleships give you plenty of time to ramp. So the things that are actual DPS checks for every other weapon system, it's all reversed. It's all jumbled up. The big battleships, the deep watchers, the overminds, the things that will slow down any other weapon system are cake for disintegrators. Frigates are okay, but cruiser rooms, you don't get enough time to ramp, and they also don't die quickly, and cruiser rooms are generally chock full. So I feel like the cruiser rooms in Tier 6 may just be a little much for a medium disintegrator to handle. But hey, we're gonna try out the other ones. You wanna try one out for me, Spot? You wanna try out what do you like the most? Zealot, Broadsword, or Deimos?
Can I have a Vagabond?
So, okay. Thank you for asking. I will now talk about the Vagabond. The Vagabond is what I call a Ride Lightning ship, and the reason for that is you have to make some choices. It can't have it all. It's a shield tank with 4 mids. It's a shield tank with turrets with 4 mids. So, and that's just like, that's not enough room for tank and application. Like, you're already sketchy. Like, you're not going to get a double battery, so you're only going to have 1 battery. You have to have a shield booster. You don't have a choice about that either. And you can't go without a prop. So that's 3 of your 4 mids. So your 4th mid is going to be either resists, or a battery, or a web. And if you go with a battery, then your resists are crap. You don't have the EHP to eat a wreck from like just about anything. You're going to lose armor just by the virtue of being in Abyss, you know, and that's just not good. So you can't put a battery. You can't go, you know, you can go with the resist, but then you lack the application. The 425 millimeter or even 220s autocannons that you're going to be using on that ship are going to have a very, very hard time hitting the small, fast targets, even when not disrupted, but certainly when weapon disrupted without the assistance of a web. It's going to be very, very difficult. And some people can do it. Like I've watched Eve TC, the Corrupted, do that, like a fly out 350 million ISK-2 dual Ancil Vagabond with no application support through Tier 5 Abyss. And it usually wins, usually. But that's the thing. It's like it's a ride the lightning ship. It only usually wins. So that same ship that he flies in Tier 5 and just YOLOs and like sometimes it wins, sometimes it dies, you could fly that same one in Tier 6 and sometimes it'll win and sometimes it'll die.
Isn't that the fun part? If you're just guaranteed to win every time, then it's no fun.
That all depends. All of it is valid. If you have guaranteed yourself to win and that was your gameplay, then that was fun. If you have given yourself a challenge that, you know, you don't always beat, but when you do, it's always because you did awesome, then like that's also really cool. Like all of these uses of Abyss are valid. Like the sandbox, folks. Yeah, we're good. Like I've gone over all the salient points. We've had some impressions. I strongly encourage everyone to read the update on Hobo Leaks, test it out on Singularity, visit the forum thread, give your feedback, be constructive, whether you like it or not, or you know, be constructive about the things you like and be constructive about the things you don't like. Recap. There has been Abyss update today to the PvE sites, which hasn't happened since release. The big hitters are there are brand new spawns, there are new rooms that you're going to encounter with Concord, with Edencom ships, with Sancha ships, and with Angel ships that we've seen, and additional Triglavians that we haven't seen before. That's 5 different groups at the least. There are brand new capital mutaplasmids that are of existing mutaplasmid types, just capital sized, that roll the same stats. And there's also a brand new siege module mutaplasmid that didn't exist before. A pair of 2 destroyers will now be allowed to enter Abyss. All destroyer hulls are being allowed in Tech 2 and 3. Command destroyers and Tech 3 destroyers are being allowed into Abyss. Have I missed anything? I think I've caught it. All right. Thanks for listening to us. I hope you all enjoy this update. Please test it out. Give your feedback.